I used to carry a 9mm all the time. A little bit of failure is what makes you stronger. Recycle your pain. You can't just say, okay, let's pull up my bootstraps and let's do this. I wanted more. I wanted more. I needed more. I needed to be successful for myself. Fear is manifested in our minds.
Tonight, I'm going to be discussing saying I'm sorry. Sorry seems to be the hardest words to say. Hardest word, I say the words, to say. Elton John. I used to hear that song. It was instilled in my head along with Rocket Man since I was a young child. My mom would have that Elton John blasting in our house, And it's one of my favorite songs, actually. It's a very deep song. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. How many times have we all heard that? And how many times have we all not heard it? And how many times have we heard, I'm sorry, and we knew the person didn't mean it saying it? They're two very important words amongst human beings, especially two partners, or even amongst friends, co-workers, anyone that you associate with. There also is a saying, we hurt the ones we love the most. I believe that. I believe that. I recently did a show about controlling our emotions. And when emotions flare and pain is caused or something is done to someone else that they don't like and is hurtful, it's painful, and then anger comes into play. And anger is a normal emotion. Some people, when they get angry, they yell, they scream. Some people throw things. Some people become violent, unfortunately. Some people get quiet. Some people hold it all in. Also, the saying of, in anger, we say things we don't mean. I fully believe that as well. Especially for very passionate people with high emotions. I recently discussed I did a show called True Love, the story of the man in the moon. And it was during that relationship of mine that I found myself becoming very angry at times. And I have to be very honest, I haven't raised my voice, really raised my voice in a long time. Many, many, many years. At times, I'm from New York. I talk loud, I talk with my hands, and especially even in business or if I'm mentoring or I'm speaking, I get louder than normal. But when I get upset, I'll raise my voice tone sometimes. But for me to get to where I'm yelling and not controlling what I'm saying is rare for me. I'm very much in control of myself and have been for a long time. As individuals, when we do something wrong to hurt someone else, we need to acknowledge that. We need to acknowledge to ourselves that what we said or what we did hurt someone else, and thus we need to apologize for it sincerely. And what it does between people is it acknowledges that one party isn't right all of the time, especially amongst partners. You acknowledge that, okay, I screwed up. I was wrong. I said this, and I believe no one can force anybody to do anything. And I'll push this to people over and over again. In other words, we control everything that we do unless there's a gun put to our head and we're forced, or any other type of weapon, to do something that we, we don't want to do. We have to, I'm looking at my computer screen because I have talked to a couple psychologists, and soon, Sunday night with Scott Binsack, my show, we're going to start having guests on my show, from psychologists to different investors to you name it, abuse victims, all different kinds of good stuff is in the works right now. But saying the words "I'm sorry" makes it very clear that you're concerned about the other person. A sincere apology. It's a basic fundamental point that has to be done over and over in our lives. None of us are perfect. We're all human. And I can humbly sit here and tell you that in my lifetime I've hurt many people. Not physically, I'm not a physical person. I mean, I will say at a few occasions I've had to beat the shit out of a few people who were attempting to assault me, or one that assaulted somebody in my family, in a defense mode. Even being, as I discussed in my other shows, being with the mob, I wasn't a violent person. Do I believe at times sometimes people need a beating? Yeah, you can say that, but doesn't mean I'm the one that's going to physically carry it out, nor do I want to. I'm not a violent person. But in this recent, so to speak, relationship, I found myself becoming very, very angry. And it was almost antagonized to me at times, because emotionally I was in pain. And does that give me a right to be angry? Of course. But how I react to it is a whole different story. And when someone hurts us, we tend to have a tendency to want to throw it right back at them to make them feel the same pain that we feel. When we do this, it's almost like a switch that's flipped over. And a couple psychologists say the same thing, that, and this is why I push that everyone needs to try to deal with past hurts and pains. And forgiveness is very key to this part. And forgiveness is very key to the words "I'm sorry" as well. Very key. And we have to understand that our bad behaviors hurt others, and take full responsibility for our actions, and be concerned enough when they hurt someone else badly. Not just, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Gotta let you go now. I'm done. I'm very sorry I hurt you. Bye." Really? I'm using this as an example, but I, on the other hand, and I'm not the same as everybody, but I believe when you have true compassion and a conscience, that, and I believe your conscience is your soul talking to you, so to speak. Our soul's talking to us. Who we are. Our conscience is really who we are inside. If I do something wrong and I hurt someone, I feel horrible. I feel horrible. And I have to express that. And I have to say I'm sorry. And then I want to, and here's a key part of apologizing, is we have to change our behavior so that we don't keep repeating it. So in a sense, when you say you're sorry, it should be a combination of, wow, okay, I know I did this wrong. I know I hurt this person. I know it was wrong what I did. And now how can I fix it? Today it's, I'm sorry. Okay, move on. Next. I'm sorry. Or there are no apologies. There are no apologies. It doesn't mean anything to the other person enough to say they're sorry. Or they say it and they're not sincere. Basically, that means the same thing. When that happens, that's a serious problem. When someone cannot account for their own bad behavior that hurts someone else and it cannot register, that's a serious problem. And it falls into narcissistic, sociopathic, different types of behaviors, personality traits, disorders. And we all have some form of narcissism in us, some form of, most of the. However, when someone doesn't care enough to truly put themselves in someone else's shoes and be sincerely sorry, and then figure out how to correct it, then that's a serious problem. A serious problem. So I found myself in this situation becoming very angry, as I stated. And it was an emotional, deep pain and anger. And it wasn't, and I had to figure it out. And that's why when I do my shows based on things that are on my head or going on with my life or things from the past that I need to discuss that have come and registered in the future, currently. And I found myself being a person I wasn't at all. I was saying nasty things, horrible things, that even though they if they're true or not or whatever, if they're hurtful to someone else, doesn't mean we have to say them or do them or cause pain to them, even though they cause pain to us. But that's our instinctual thing to do when we're in pain, is we want the other person to feel just as bad as they made us feel. And believe it or not, other people will take what you've said to them, and then that becomes the new issue. That becomes the new thing. Well, you said this to me, you said that to me, how could I ever forget that? You said this, that, and it bypassed the entire reason that there was an argument to begin with. And now it becomes something new to throw out, to encompass and cover up the other, as a new reasoning to stop or argue about something that's not the main point. Because we just created a whole new argument, so to speak. And that will become the new focus, if it's not good communication and intimate communication, meaning proper communication between two people. So I found myself, and I've had this happen to me once before, many, many years ago, with someone else who hurt me. I've had a lot of people hurt me in my life since I was a child. And I buried most of the pain and put it into work, became very successful. I turned it into fuel. I recycled the pain. I still recycle the pain at times in my life when I need to reach deep. And I couldn't figure out what this person was saying to me, what she was saying to me. Why was it making me so... Besides it was hurtful, besides it was not much like, okay, care about, okay, my feelings in the situation. It was just like, okay, bye. That's it. Simple. Blah, blah, blah. Done. Okay, really? And I'm sure people watching this have had the same thing problem. And it could be something, anything. And it happens with a lot with family members, family gatherings or things, or amongst brothers and sisters in this. They say something or they do something and then there's no forgiveness and they don't speak and they don't show go up to family gatherings and they hold grudges for years and there's no forgiveness. And it's like pulling teeth and people hold on to this, they harbor this resentment and hate inside. And as we are growing up and as children and as things happen to us, traumatic, a lot of us, most people, they don't, they bury it. Okay, they bury it. But it can take one event or something that someone says to trigger, as psychologists say, to trigger it, and that pain comes like, and it's like you're dealing with the same situation, and you haven't dealt with it, and it comes flying out forward, just like right there. And this is happening subconsciously. So someone says something to you, and they keep saying it to you, and they keep saying it to you, or they're doing something, and they just keep encompassing the pain, and there's no real concern. Or it could be anything. Someone could call somebody a bad name, and it could hurt them. It could trigger, we'll say the word, you're a whore. I'll just use it to a woman, you're a whore, or the C word, which I won't say on the air, but you're a whore. To somebody who grew up with a mother who had bad behaviors or tendencies like that and was called that and acted like that, that would trigger serious problems, serious reaction within them. And there we go. Pow! There's the new conflict, and there's the new pain, and there's the new, you called me that, I'm not that, da 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 da. Now, as I just said, we just passed the entire argument of what we were originally arguing and discussing about, and we have a whole new conflict. Words. However, saying these things or doing actions could be anything. You're taking a car, I'm just using any example, but I really want to focus more on the partnership in relationships. Being sorry for what our bad actions are or hurtful things that we've done is key. And to learn to correct the behavior so it doesn't happen again is key. And when we don't face our issues from the past and they come flying up, that's why I tell people to deal with their issues, face themselves. And sometimes you don't even know what they are. Some of the ones that are rooted deeply in there, and they show up. But when they show up and you acknowledge that they were bad and you hurt someone and you say you're sorry, you need to figure out how to fix that behavior and stop that behavior and stop the bad behavior. It's a cycle then. Otherwise, it's just going to recycle itself back up. So, regardless of how hurt I got by anybody in my past, and as I said, I haven't done this with many, but I said some very hurtful things. Very hurtful things. And regardless, I should be the better person because I'm the one being hurt. Yes, I can lash out. We want to lash out and say things to make the other person feel horrible and feel the pain. That's not the right way. It's not the right way to handle it, and it's not the right reaction to it. Having anger is a normal reaction. How we deal with it is the issue. And when we're facing past pains and issues, we need to face those and accept them and forgive those who have hurt us. Whether it be parents, siblings, friends, ex-wife, ex-boyfriend, ex-husband, you name it. Because once they're surfaced, now they have been brought to our attention. And when you're in serious pain, or somebody causes us serious pain, it's almost like you black out for a little while. Because the pain is so bad that we want to inflict it back on them. And we don't, blacking out into that mode is not the proper way to handle the pain. It's not the proper way to hurt them back. Every time we do something with our partner, there's an immediate reaction. Whether it's, okay, wow, I feel loved by that, and it's okay. Or it's, no, I don't feel loved, and no, I don't like that. So, as I said, and as psychologists call it, a visceral alarm. I call it a red flag, they call it a visceral alarm, goes off. So when we talk to each other, we are sending out our signals, basically even by body language as well. But when we're talking to somebody, and what we say and what we do, it's absorbed by the other person. And if it's absorbed badly, alarms go off, and we inflict pain. And I'm a much bigger person than that, and better person than that. And I prided myself on that through many, many things I've gone through. I've taken my anger and didn't blast it. I turned it into strength, and I used it effectively. In most occasions. And I have to say that I said some pretty bad things. Whether they're true or not, I shouldn't have said them. And I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. I can't say that for the other party, because I didn't really get a basic, real, sincere apology. It was a quick, I'm sorry, gotta let you go by. And this is a while ago, this is not, I don't want people to, my last show, people are like, oh wow, this is, and it's happened once before to me in a relationship many years ago. And it was a constant game of, she knew how to push my buttons, and she played those buttons. She had me hook, line, and sinker when I was younger. This is a different relationship, and she knew how to push my buttons, and she knew I cared. See, when those of us who care too much sometimes, and one thing I've learned is how one person loves is not how another loves. And how one person, that doesn't mean that they don't love you the same. It just means we all love differently. But one thing that's very key to it all, when there is a problem or a breakdown and things are said or done that are hurtful to the other, we need to apologize. We need to apologize. And we need to be sincere about it. And we then need to forgive it. And it's a very key part of it. Too many arguments are focused on each partner breathlessly trying to get their point across instead of listening to one another. So it just fuels it, especially text messaging or a messenger or even on the telephone instead of face to face. It's worse. It's much worse, especially text messaging. Things get out of hand, just like, as well as on the phone, Listening is very important to listening to one another. And if one person doesn't really care, and I'm saying this in general, so I don't want anybody to think that I'm referring this to the current situation or past. This is now general. If one person really doesn't care, about your feelings and how their actions have hurt you, there's a serious breakdown of a problem there within themselves. I couldn't imagine on my own worst uh, judge. I'm hardest on myself more than I could ever be on anyone else. And I know many people are like that. We also have to learn to forgive ourselves. But saying I'm sorry in a relationship, or after a breakup, or in a family situation, or even with best friends, or even at work, is very key. And then analyzing ourselves and looking at our behavior to not do it again, or to figure out why we did it to begin with, and then thus not to do it again, is critical to life, to a solid relationship, to a solid wholeness with someone, with yourself. In other words, we have to be open enough to realize when we've hurt somebody. We have to realize if we hurt somebody, we have to realize it. I hurt this person by my actions. And people who don't care, or just out for themselves, or don't have the ability to care, that's serious. And it can wound the other person, because the words "I'm sorry," sincerely said, go a long way. Now, you shouldn't apologize for things, for being yourself, so to speak. And what I mean by that is saying, I'm sorry, I didn't like what I said, if it had to do with saying, I don't like the way you do this, or I don't like the way you do that. Never apologize for being yourself and stating your mind. But you don't have to say, hey, listen, fuck you, da 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 da, you're a scumbag, da da da. You could say, this is the deal, this is the way it is, this is the way it has to be, and this is who I am. That's it. Never apologize for being yourself. Never apologize for being yourself. For doing something hurtful, yes, but never apologize for yourself, and never over apologize. And never say an apology if you don't mean it. Just don't. If you don't mean it, don't say it. And if you don't mean it and you hurt somebody badly, figure out why you don't care. Figure out why. Therapy, whatever it takes. That's pretty scary. If I'm telling you, a person's conscience is where that word "I'm sorry" comes from. It's an inner belt. It's an inner, I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry, and how can I correct this? How can I not, what can I do for you to correct this? It's called taking responsibility for our actions. And I've had to face and take responsibility for a lot of my bad actions in my lifetime. All of them. I'll face them all, one by one, and I have faced a lot of them. I'm here tonight to say I'm sorry to anyone I've ever hurt, whether it had been intentional or not. Most was probably, in my case, out of emotional hurt and pain. And there was a time when I had my near fatal auto accident in 1999 that probably the next 12 months of my after had my whole life changed. So much stuff was going on. And I had been in a coma. I had suffered severe head trauma, 40 some odd plates in my head. The pictures from the 3D CAT scan are on my blog under a show called Seeing Heaven and Hell. I couldn't do the show until I had the proof, so people would understand, because people say, oh, you're so good looking, Scott, your face, skin looks like, believe me. But let's skip that. The point is that I suffered severe head trauma. My brain was swollen for almost 2 years from the trauma. In this accident I died in. I didn't even know who I was for the longest time. I was doing bizarre behavior, stupid things, And so, in that period, I hurt a lot of people. And I went on a jaunt around the country to my house in a condo in Antigua at the time, Jamaica, Grand Cayman. I was all over the place, drinking heavy, doing cocaine. This was 15 years ago. I was on a binge to just die. didn't know who I was, didn't know what was going on, didn't know I was not myself at all, didn't know, I mean, and I hurt a lot of people. I hurt a lot of people. And just medically speaking, I really wasn't in control at that time. But I still believe we're all responsible for our actions, and I'll take responsibility for those actions. And I've hurt a lot of people, you know, in relationships, and I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. And I recently said, you know, a lot of things that I didn't mean. And I do believe when emotions are high and passions are high and things are what they are, we say things we don't mean. Because afterwards we're like, whoa, why would I say that? Why did I say that? Because we want to inflict the same pain on the person that was inflicting the pain on us and wanted to feel it, except most of the time they can't feel it because they're numb. A lot of people are numb. A lot of people don't care. A lot of people just care about themselves. And it's very true. Or a lot of people just don't know how to care, and thus how to even love themselves. A lot of people don't know how to love. And instead of trying to simply fix themselves, they bury it and put on rose-colored glasses and go through life. And I'm not telling you anything I haven't done in my own life in my past. But I'm talking to some people that seriously do this. And the glasses go on, bad behavior gets shoveled, they don't even feel it, they don't even see it. Well, that's all this was, that's it, have a nice day, you know, sorry, that's it, let me move on with my life, fuck you, have a good day. And it happens all the time, it happens in business, happens in relationships, happens in lots of things. It you know, I thought I hit my button. That sounds great. Did you hit my button? And I've come to grips with this because I know why. I figured out why in these two relationships I was triggered by actions done by the other people. And it had to do with my mother. And it had to do with my mother always saying, you know, I love you, Scotty, I love you, this, and yet I got abandoned. And yet I wasn't important enough. That I wasn't, you know, and that I gave all the love I could, and I tried to help and fix my mother, and I never fixed my mom. My mom was, as I discussed in my show, severe alcoholic, you know, a lot of issues. I saw my mother with a lot of men, because she was herself in love and had her own serious issues. And I wanted to fix her. It's in my nature, I wanted to help her. And I also got rejected as a child. Not just by her, but many family members. There was no love in my childhood except for my mother's parents, my grandparents. And it's a serious, sincere love, unconditional love. And even at time that got strained because of my mother's bad behaviors. And these relationships triggered that. And I know what it is now. And that's how I am. I'll self-help myself. I have to know what's going on because I don't want to repeat bad behavior. I just don't. I don't want to repeat bad behavior. I want to make myself better and stronger and smarter. I don't like hurting other people. I just don't. It's not my nature, and I believe most people don't want to hurt each other. I believe most people are good. And, you know, it seems more though, let's be honest here, there's more to seems darkness, badness, nastiness, hurt and pain in the world today. And a lot more people just don't care. People just don't give a fuck. I'm going to be saying straight as it is. They just don't. They care about themselves. Me. And our society has made it that way. It's sort of been programmed into their head. It's almost like turning people against, they want people to turn against themselves. Sounds crazy, but it's true. Like civil unrest. And there's so many damaged people because so many children today are not and haven't been raised properly or with good parents. And I don't mean because of divorce or things like that. I'm just talking about because they're not good parents, or they've abandoned their children, or they just don't care. And they, you see it today everywhere. People are getting pregnant and popping out babies like left and right so they can get welfare. Horrible. These are human beings. These are children that have to go into the world and they're very damaged. The reality is that people who love us will hurt us. People hurt the ones they love the most. I think because they feel the most comfortable with them, and because the other person triggers it in them, and because they love them so much. And so they say things they don't mean in the heat of the arguments. In the end, being sorry for something is just not about the words. It's also a reflection in your behavior. And we must change our behavior. I'm going to go over some points now that I found to be the better ones. Since saying I'm sorry really is the hardest thing to say for many, and it's not always easy. One of the first things to do is to apologize quick and intensely. In other words, once you realize you've hurt someone, apologize right away. Apologize right away. The longer you let it go out, it makes you that they believe that you really don't care, and most of the time, really, that's a sign that you don't care. As well as the longer it takes for you to apologize, the longer you prolong the conflict. Two people should, you apologize, take it in. I mean, the pain will take a little while to go away, but at least the I'm sorry is sincere and it's there, and then you learn to forgive, and you can move past it, especially if the behavior is identified. 2, don't say you're sorry if you don't mean it. Bottom line, don't do it. Apologies have to be real. I'm sorry needs to be real and sincere. Just like the words, I love you. I'm sorry needs to be sincere as well. As I said, I'm sorry, people throw that shit around and then they go right back and do the same bad behavior again. It's a vicious cycle. I'm sure everybody watching this knows the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Impossible. You're only prolonging the inevitable. And then you wake up old one morning and go, wow, my life's over. I'm old. What did I do? I have these issues. I never dealt with them. I'm alone. Or you could be together and be miserable. But you're alone and life's pretty much over. It's one thing that I don't get about people. And I preach it in every show, and I'll keep pushing it. You could be dead tomorrow. You could be dead tomorrow. All of us. No one knows when the time comes, and all of a sudden they go, wow, do you know Fred just died of a heart attack? No, I couldn't. He was only 44. He's on his way to work. Or so-and-so, she she got cancer, and she's still, it's over. Etc., 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 etc. What are you waiting for? Live every day of your life as it's your last. That means also identify your bad behaviors. Fix your shit. We all need to fix our shit and be mature enough and real enough to admit it and say we're sorry for our behaviors. And I'm saying it right now, I'm very sorry. Because it's not in my character, and I said some things, and I even did a video on Facebook that was it was inappropriate. Yeah, I told it how it is. I did tell it how it was and my feelings, and that's how I am. I'm a real person. I say it how it is, do it how it is. But I was wrong. I was wrong. Very wrong. And regardless of how much the other person hurt me or other people hurt us, hurting them is not the answer. Hurting them is the wrong way to do it. And I know it's very frustrating. I know it's difficult. I know it's difficult. And I'm a strong person. It is difficult at times for me. But now that I've identified the reason why, and I understand the reason why, and I know the trigger, I've become a step ahead. And it's something I'm going to continue to work on. But it doesn't happen all. It has to do with a particular pattern of behavior from other party. So that the trigger doesn't go off anymore, I'm just facing the situation about my mother. And I'm man enough to say it. Most people like to go through life, they're macho, they're this, men don't cry, men don't do this. Another thing that society has pushed into people. Just like get married at 16 and right out of high school, and women stay in the kitchen, women raise children, and that's their place. And if you're married, you stay married forever. No, that's what society told you is correct. That doesn't make it right, and it's not right. Women should be equal and are equal as men. If they want to stay home in the kitchen, fine. And if they're able to. If not, and they want to be a CEO of a company, then let them roll. Let them fly high. No one, not one soul on this planet, should be trapped in a situation or a job or anything that they don't love and don't want to be with, or a person they don't love, or a situation that they don't want to be because they believe that that's their responsibility. No. No. First responsibility is to yourself. If you don't love yourself and you're not happy within yourself, you can never emanate that completely to the other people around you, including children, friends, family, business, goals, dreams, you name it. You name it. I used to remember, I'm going to say this quick because I'm not going to make this a full hour show. I would remember when I had 30, 50 employees, and I'm a very, passionate, emotional guy, and everything shows on my face, and I most 95% of the time I send out good energy, good light, good energy. And thus when I'm mad, people know. And I don't mean by yelling and screaming, they know that they see it on me. Because we all have our pushing points, and I'm one of those people where enough is enough. You cross the line, that's it. Have a nice day. Goodbye. Pack your shit, have a good day. You work for me, you gotta go. If you get to that point and you don't do your job, and I'm giving you a zillion chances and you still can't, that's it. You gotta go. End of story. Again, never mistake kindness for weakness. But I learned this many years ago. If I were to come into work in a bad mood, or go out into the field and just see guys on jobs and projects being built and whatever, and I was in a bad mood, or I was angry, I infected them all. I infected the girls at the office, I infected the guys in the field. Production was down for that day. Things didn't get done. Now if I went in and even when I faked it, because I figured out what I was doing, when I faked it even, to where okay, good morning everybody, this is great, we're gonna have a good day today, da-da-da-da-da. Production and things got done and things flowed smoothly. Even though underneath I was dealing, because I shouldn't bring my own personal matters into my office. Same thing, you shouldn't bring your office matters into your own. And I fixed this because I would affect everybody around me. And I've even seen it on Facebook. When I'm hurting or in a bad mood and I post like that, and it's a recent study that Facebook did themselves without people knowing it, how they affected news feeds by putting positive or negative feeds in, and how it affected people's moods. I'm a motivator. I want people to be lifted. I enjoy helping people and lifting them up. So when my mood is bad, or I'm down, they're down. And to allow other people to get us down or to bring us down to their level is the worst thing we could do. Because now, and so to speak, we'll say they won. They won. And I'm going to use the word won, it's not a game, but in a sense, to them they have the power. We've given them our power by allowing them to bring us down to their level. So that they can hurt us and then we want to spew it back out. I don't want to spew anything but positive. And I'm going to have my good days and my bad days, but one thing I'm going to tell you is I'm not that guy who yells. Not my style. I'm not that person who screams and yells and says hurtful things back to people. That's not me. And this situation brought out the worst in me because it had opened an emotional, deep, deep wound. Serious wound within me. And I'm very, very sorry for anything I've said or done during that time period, as well as at times in my past in relationships, and I've hurt people. And believe me, I've been hurt too, and I never got apologies. I've been hurt more times than you can imagine because I am such a giver and a good person. But I've learned now I only give so much, and I only give to certain type of people. And I will never, after this other situation, I preach it, always follow your gut. Always follow your instincts if they're based on sincere information, that's being fed to you. We can have bad gut, wrong gut feelings if the information we're being fed to our mind is not correct. Then that triggers the gut. Now the sixth sense, that's a whole different story, so to speak. When you feel that and you sense something, and my gut in this situation was my sixth sense, regardless of it though. Regardless of it all. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for anybody I've ever hurt. I really am. And I can't blame anybody else but myself. With the exception of the time period right after my auto accident when I really mentally wasn't myself from a serious injury. In the end, remember what I'm telling you. Say you're sorry if you sincerely mean it. And if you mean it, figure out to yourself what behavior you need to change so it doesn't happen again. Or this vicious cycle, as it always is amongst people, just continues. We are all the key. Everybody talks about how bad the planet is and how people, how dark people are, and mean people are, and selfish people are, and guess what? No one can fix it but every one of us, every day. No one can fix this problem we have on the planet. Not a president, not a king, not a queen, not all the money in the world, whatever. Us, each one of us, every day, on how we treat other people and thus how we treat ourselves, and to face our own problems and our own issues. So we don't spit them out and send them to everybody else. Because it's like a stone. You throw it into a lake and it ripples. Everything we do just... Another quick thing here is, show genuine interest in the other person if they're hurting. Don't just not give a shit. And if you don't give a shit, then don't be with them. And look at yourself. It's a mad, mad world. The least we can do is when we're wrong and we say hurtful things or do hurtful things to somebody, you can sincerely apologize for it to make it a little more better. And the show's not about forgiveness, but forgiveness is very key to it as well. Don't hold grudges. most people do things not deliberately to harm the other person, especially somebody they love, out of anger, hurt, or pain. Don't be selfish and not forgive people. The world does not revolve around each one of us. It just doesn't. The world does not owe us anything. We owe ourselves, and thus each other. Listen to what I'm telling you. We need to change. We need to change from within. And then we'll change and help people around us change, and we affect everybody around us. Good night. God bless.